Hi, I'm Joe with Texas Towel, and today we are at the Chickasaw Recreation Area outside of Sulphur, Oklahoma. Come along, we're going to see all the hot springs that they have to offer here. We're going to look at some of the lakes and the walking trails, and as a special treat, we're going to talk about how to put the deaf into this beast today. So come on along. Today we are at Chickasaw Recreation Area in Chickasaw, Oklahoma. I forgot what state we were in. It's about just a nice 3-hour drive from Dallas, a little bit north. It's a really different park. The camp area we're at is basically all camping, right? And then now we're had to drive into the actual park area to do some hiking. And just taking a nice morning walk on this little trail around the lake that's called Veterans Lake. One of the things that this place is known for is it's known for all these freshwater springs that we have, and this is one of the springs. It's called Pavilion Springs. Here's another spring. It's called Hillside Spring, which is a short walk from the Pavilion Springs we're at. And I tell you, I sure wish you were here to smell this because it absolutely stinks. It smells like rotten eggs, right? You know, it's got a lot of sulfur here and sulfur in the water. So, in one of my videos, I showed Amy how to put diesel fluid inside the van because she started traveling alone. I want to make sure she understood how to put diesel fluid in the van. One of the things I needed to tell her how to do was DEF. I didn't have a chance to tell her about the DEF fluid at the time because we didn't have time, and I had just filled up the DEF tank, and I knew she wasn't going to be traveling long enough to have to put DEF in the DEF fluid inside the DEF tank. So now that she's been back and we've been driving a little bit, it's about time to put some fluid in there. So let's go ahead and talk about that. But the first thing we need to do is, what the heck is DEF, right? So this is my first diesel vehicle I've ever owned, so I'm trying to get used to the whole diesel fluid versus gasoline, right? It's different. But there's a few other things, especially in the modern diesels, that you really have to know about. One of the first one you have to know about is obviously it's called DEF, or diesel exhaust fluid. Diesel emission fluid is what we're talking about today. There's another thing that's called a DPF, which is the diesel particulate filter. We'll talk about that in a different video, but this video right now I just want to talk about DEF. So DEF is a fluid. It's basically a combination of water and urea that gets injected in the exhaust system of the diesel fluid, the diesel rather, to clean the exhaust. So as a byproduct of diesel and the way diesel fuel's formulated, and then some of the sulfur and stuff that they have in there, one of the byproducts that it makes is kind of a nitrous oxide, nitrous with a whole bunch of oxygen and other things in there, nitrogen. That's really bad for the environment. So the urea in the water, when it gets heated in there, it acts as a source for ammonia, and then the ammonia in the DEF fluid combines with all the bad stuff in the diesel fluid and basically turns it into nitrogen, N2, which everybody uses, and carbon dioxide, which is a lot more stabler for the environment. Another thing you need to know about DEF is you have to take care of it because the federal government says that if you run out of DEF and you're not using DEF in the vehicle has to shut down, right? So Mercedes implementation of that, and then some other cars too, is if you run out of DEF fluid, you don't have any DEF fluid, and they put the van into what's called limp home mode, where basically you can't drive more than 40 miles an hour, and then you get a warning about, you only got 16 times to start the car and actually move it before it shuts down completely. So what you don't want is you don't want to be out camping somewhere, and then trying to make it out, and you don't have any DEF fluid, and then all of a sudden whammo, you go in the limp home mode. That's not good, right? So you don't want to be stuck in that situation. So you need to pay attention to that. So one thing we need to look at, is one we're going to talk about real quick, is how in the world do you tell if you need DEF fluid anyway, right? So I want to go ahead and show how you get DEF, where to tell if you need DEF fluid in there. We'll talk about where to get it, what it looks like, and then we'll show you how to put it in. Everything on the left side of the steering wheel controls the middle piece. Right side controls the MBUX. So if you hit home, it brings up this icon right here with all these icons, right? So what you want to do is you want to scroll through the icons, and you can do that on this trackpad with your finger going back and forth, right? So we're going to scroll here to the one that says services. So if you can see that, it says services. So what we want to do is go ahead and select where it says services. So I'm going to push it like it's like an enter key on my trackpad on my Mac. Okay, so it says services, and then we're going to scroll down. So just scroll down with this thing to where it says additive, DEF. Then if you look here, okay, it's going to show you where the DEF is, right? So I'm about, a quarter of a tank down, right? I really don't need to put any in here, but I just want to show you how to do this. So the question is when you fill this up, right? I mean, I've had people tell me, and you read on the internet, half full. Some people say 3/4 full. I guess half full is a good place to do it, because at least if you keep putting it in half full, you don't have to think about it, right? Because it's done. One thing you do need to remember, though, and this is why I do it at half full, is the DEF tank in the Mercedes, and especially in my 2021 Revel on a 2020 Mercedes chassis, the DEF tank is 5 gallons. It's a little over 5 gallons. It's 5 gallons and some change, right? And so if you go buy a brick or a box of DEF from like your local Costco or from anywhere else, that's 2.5 gallons. So if you're at halfway, that's basically a box of DEF, right? So that's really easy to remember. And then if you have to stop somewhere and put it in there and pump it in, you only have to do is pump in 2.5 gallons and you're done, right? So about a half is probably a good recommendation, because it just fits with the regular measurements of everything else, and you're not forgetting about it, and it's top of your mind. If you go over and it's 3/4 of a tank, and you finally have to stop and put some DEF in there, it's not the end of the world, right? Just you don't want this to go empty. Okay, so that's one way. So you notice too, another thing that I've done is I turn on my DEF gauge right here. So when I'm driving, the fuel gauge is here, the diesel fuel gauge is here, and then this here's the DEF. It tells me my DEF level here, and that stays whenever I'm out of this, right? Even if I come over here to like my navigation menu, I want to see, hang on. You got to go back over here, and remember when you get there, you got to select the button. There you go. So if I like in my navigation or whatever, see the DEF is still there, but you have to turn it on. So if you don't have it turned on in your van, the easiest way to do is go home till you have the icons, right? So I press the home button, right? They got the icons. I'm going to scroll over to where it says services. There it is. Or settings rather. You go to settings. So it's on the exact end from services. So I have service over here. And I keep going, and I go, and it says settings. So I'm going to settings, and it's here. So you push the button settings, you go to display and operation. It's going to say, you want to display your DEF. So you can either do it permanently, or just have it for reserve fuel. When reserve fuel comes on and starts showing what reserve fuel is, I'm just going to go ahead and keep it on permanent, right? So if you notice, if I switch that, it goes, and if I go to permanent, it stays, right? So now I have my DEF in the middle, and I always see it, so I don't have to worry about forgetting about it, or if it's kind of going to be empty if I'm going to go in limp home mode. So remember, fuel is here, DEF level. Once you figure out that you need DEF, where can you get the darn stuff from? Well, there's a couple places you can get it from, right? Well, one of the first places you can get it from is truck stops, obviously like Flying J and Pilot and all that stuff, where the trucks are, because all the big trucks have to run on, probably run on DEF too. So after you fill up the commercial tank, you can go ahead into the truck lane and go ahead and fill up that way as well. That works. I've actually been stopped once at a Pilot Flying J to get DEF. They didn't have any at the pump. So I had to buy the box inside the store, which was really pretty expensive. It's a lot cheaper buying it at the pump. I will tell you though that if you're in Texas and if you're lucky enough to have a Buc-ee's, or if you're in Alabama on 10, there's a Buc-ee's in Mobile, and there's also Buc-ee's in outside of Atlanta on 20. Right? If you stop at a Buc-ee's, a lot of the new Buc-ee's have DEF fluid right there by the diesel tanks, which is usually on the end, one of the ends of the aisles. Like I said before, is usually you got to look for the diesel. It's usually on the end of the pumps, but it's there in a big blue sign that says DEF, and you can buy it there. It's a lot cheaper than buying it at the pump than it is having to buy a brick, right? Because I know when I had to buy the Pilot, it was like $13-14 for 2.5 gallons. It's really expensive. It's like, holy crap, right? So and they want to do that. And then also when you buy it from the pump, right, I'm sure it cycles a lot, so it's probably a lot fresher, and when you want to keep the DEF pretty fresh and pretty pure, right, because you don't want to burning all the junk in your emissions, because it's not good for it. Another place that works out really good that I've noticed and I really like, and I'll show you what the box looks like. But if you go to Costco, you can get the box of DEF for $10. It's $9.99 here, at least in Dallas you can. So there, I couldn't find DEF at my local Costco warehouse. I had to go to a Costco business center, but the business center actually had a DEF, which to me was really good, right? It worked out just fine in getting it there, because I got I bought 2 boxes at home, and I'm fixing to use 1 box in here, right? And then that's got me covered for a little bit, and then it's not bad. $10 a box, and the box lasts a long time, so that's really good. So let's go ahead and take a look. I'll show you what the box looks like that I bought. We'll talk about how we put it inside the Revel itself. All right. Okay, so this is what the box of blue DEF looks like, right? So, like I said, I found this at Costco, real cheap. When we bought a box of Pilot, this was stacked up in a corner and it said Pilot DEF on it, but they basically all come in a box. And if you look in here, there's a plastic container in here. And then the nice thing too is make sure you grab the one that's got the nozzle, okay? Because if you see it's got this nozzle on here, and that nozzle is going to go onto this. It's got a little vent piece on here, and that way it'll help you pour it into the DEF tank. So what do you have to remember about this is everything's color coded, right? So like I said in my earlier video, is the diesel is green, right? So the diesel handle is green. If you want to go get DEF at the pump, the DEF pump handle is blue itself, and that's because if you come here and look, the tank where it goes is blue as well, right? So to open it up, you just go ahead, unscrew it, and then you just put the nozzle in there in the tank, and you have this thing, and you just pour it in there, and it's done, okay? Now remember what I said earlier is this tank is 5 gallons. A little over 5 gallons, 5 gallons and some change is what it holds. When it's halfway, it's 2.5 gallons, right? And this box, if you look at it, this box is 2.5 gallons. So you figure the DEF tank, if it goes empty, it takes 2 of these. And if you fill up halfway, it takes a box. So that's why I would recommend that you just wait until it gets about halfway and you go ahead and fill it up and just throw a box in there. That way you don't have to worry about it. And then if you had to wait till it got empty and then put 2 of them in there, then you go in the limp hoe mode when it gets empty. And please don't blame Mercedes for that, because that's a federal government requirement, right, that the DEF works. So another thing to worry about is just be careful here too, because the DEF is blue, and make sure it says DEF. This tank behind it is for the coolant reservoir, right? So you don't want to put DEF in the coolant, because that'll come up the works. Then of course you got the oil here, and you definitely don't want to put it in there, right? So just be careful over here, and just make sure it goes here on the outside of the engine compartment where it says blue DEF. That's simple.